Welcome to Fresh Off the Boat. I'm delighted to chat with Trisha Singh, a student I've known for almost a decade now. It's interesting how her journey spanned out from a high schooler in Delhi to Middlebury College in Vermont. A very different landscape, and I'm sure a very different pace of life. Uh, Trisha graduated from Middlebury in 2018, and also I'm sure did amazing things. We've been following her work. We'll get to know about that. But then is now pursuing her master's in statistics at Stanford University. It's a 1.5 year long program, and we'll learn more about that too. So, first question, Trisha, to you is, what is it like, moving to Middlebury, Vermont from Delhi, and then what happened in terms of figuring out your place in a new setting?
Yeah, I think this was in 2014. So my memory is a bit hazy. But one thing I do remember is that when I went to Middlebury, that was the first time I'd been to the US. And I had only seen places like New York in movies. And then when I landed in Vermont, it was this really like rural, very, very different from what I had imagined. And it was definitely a huge shock when I landed because I think I had never expected to be in a place like that, and I yeah, so I think settling in too. I obviously grew up in Delhi, so I was very used to being in a big city with a lot going on. And Middlebury is kind of in the middle of nowhere. It's actually really hard to get there. But it's so beautiful that I really fell in love with the place. And especially, I think during those 4 years of college, I think that was the perfect setting for me to be in because just little things like taking walks, looking at the sunset. I would do that every day, and it would just complement my education really well. And everyone in Vermont is so nice that they really made it feel like home.
And did it match your expectations in terms of the academics? How did you meander your way, use resources, and become better? You were also pretty super in high school. So I'm just like figuring out, for a very driven student, how would a Middlebury academic experience be like?
I think at Middlebury, a lot of the departments have a very different culture. So I majored in economics and math. And so some of the departments in Middlebury, even though it is a liberal arts college, some of them are a little bit more professionally focused. So the economics department is a little bit like that. It's the one of the largest majors, and the classes are kind of a little bit more. You'll find a lot of people in the classes, and it felt a little bit more like school that I was used to in Delhi. Um, and the math department was a big contrast to that. It was a tiny department, and there was a lot of focus on just enjoying the material. And I mean, I did find that in the economics department too, but the general atmosphere of the math department was, they'll give us, say, a problem set for 2 weeks, and we just have to think about it for 2 weeks. We're just working on it. And, like we do proofs from scratch. So it was very laid back in a sense, but because they wanted us to approach it with just wanting to learn the material and enjoying the material. So
Were
I did
there any?
find.
Yeah, go ahead. Complete what you
Oh
said.
no, I mean, yeah, it was just. I think you'll find a lot of different attitudes towards learning in the kinds of classes that are offered there. Um, but for the most part, it is very supportive in the way you learn. The professors really support you. Your classmates aren't that competitive, so it's a very friendly learning experience.
That's fascinating. What about the idea of choosing majors? I'm not sure if you went decided. I know you were always good at math, and economics. And how did you explore that? Did you have
Yeah,
major decisions to make, or it was all smooth?
I think for economics, I decided early because I knew that I wanted to do economics going in. But For the rest, I really wandered around a lot. So for math, I think I declared in my second year, if I remember correctly. I also explored geography, computer science. So it was definitely there was a lot of exploration there. I even thought about being an English lit major for some time, and then got annihilated in one of the classes I took and realized it wasn't for me. But there was a lot of opportunity to explore, and I think even till my last year of college, I was still thinking about what field I want to do really.
So yes, and how did very often people have this grouse against or do not know that liberal arts colleges do prepare students for pre-professional tracks or even grad school
Mhm.
really well. And now here you are at Stanford. What do you see is missing in the communication, or what people should know about higher ed in general, and also the place of
Mhm.
liberal arts colleges like Middlebury?
Yeah, I think yeah, you touched upon those common misconceptions. I think for professional development, for professionally oriented activities, and also for grad school preparation, I think a liberal arts college can probably be one of the best possible environments to pursue these things. So in college, so I right after college I worked, and I also applied for grad school in my last year of college. So I had both those experiences. And professionally, we used to have a lot of networking events, and I think I learned really well how to network in college. And because I had that kind of personal mentorship, I think I went from like 0 to 100 in terms of my networking skills because of Middlebury. And then another thing that you gain professionally is an amazing alumni network. They're all very deeply connected to the school. So if you contact someone who went to Middlebury, they will definitely get back to you and try to help you as much as they can. So it's a pretty tight knit community. And also you're definitely going to find a lot of companies that come to campus for recruiting, especially in my experience for finance and tech. I saw a lot of big companies coming to campus if that's what
Sure. So,
if
what
someone
if
is
you were to
interested in
talk
that.
about your journey in terms of even on-campus jobs,
Mm.
different roles that you played, as well as the internships over the years in your undergrad
Mhm.
years? What was that like, and then how did it make you decide what you're doing now, masters in statistics?
Sure. Yeah, I think so. There are two components to this. One is the job I ended up doing, and the second is my decision to apply to grad school. So I'll give a brief overview of what I did, and then I can kind of talk about um, what helped me at Middlebury and how this came about. So I think I have a very bad memory, but I think okay. So I think my first summer I worked as a research assistant on campus in the economics department. My second summer I worked at Evidence for Policy Design, which is a Harvard Kennedy School think tank. Um, back in Delhi. My third summer, I worked at Analysis Group, which is an economic consulting firm. And then I ended up working at Analysis Group full time. And then after working there for a year, I started my master's in statistics at Stanford, which is what I'm currently doing. So I think so. Thinking about my first few years, my summer internships, I think it really helped to have that kind of personal connection with the professors and that kind of liberal arts environment. So for my first, I think getting a research assistantship in the first year is something that I would really not expect would happen at a big university because at especially I think most liberal arts colleges you don't have grad students. Because of that, undergrads get to be involved in research quite often. So I was really happy to get that chance. I learned a lot. We were working on this economics microeconomics textbook, and I was doing some research for that. So it was a really good experience. I think just starting out from my first year, I got really interested in research because of the connection I had with my professors.
Fantastic.
Um,
Yeah. So
yeah.
I think it's wonderful to know about your journey but how did you grow as a person? So switching gears to say, personal growth and
Mm.
finding your mojo in terms of extracurriculars and other things that you started liking, involving as being, as well as emotionally becoming stronger, connecting with not just people but yourself.
Mm.
Uh, what activities did you pursue as extracurriculars, clubs, or other things at Middlebury, or even now
Yeah,
at
I
Stanford?
yeah, I think Middlebury really shaped me in terms of the the person I became. So I became a lot more independent. I became a lot more confident, and I think because of the kind of undergrad experience I had, I became much more comfortable with talking to different kinds of people and forming really deep connections with them. So, and because of the way, so in our first year, we all used to live on one hall, and we would all hang out every night and talk about philosophy, literature. We would play music together. I had a band in college, which was really fun. We used to perform at different events on campus. Um, I think that's I used to do a lot of that in my free time. Go to music events, perform, jam with my friends. Um, and I think I was involved in student government in college. I think I was very shy in school, and being in Middlebury, I just felt kind of like there was this. I had I had this sort of spotlight on me just because of all the individual attention I was getting. So I got encouraged to put myself out there, run for elections, which was also really fun. Um,
Fantastic. I'm
yeah.
switching to another question about gender identity, and how did
Mhm.
those stereotype beliefs that you may or may not have carried to college, how did how did that change your perspective about being a woman, aspiring to be a leader in your field,
Mhm.
involving yourself in things out there? What is it? What is different about your experience of finding your place as a woman in a college and beyond?
Yeah, I think moving from Delhi to Middlebury, I realized a lot of the things that I had found normal in while growing up, like being scared to be out at night and just feeling paranoid at at random occasions. I think a lot of that started to go away because Middlebury is very safe, and I would be walking back from the library at 2 a.m. And I would feel perfectly safe. I would feel so free. I think that also kind of empowered me in a way to go traveling solo, or made me feel more confident, because I think that definitely intellectually and mentally I always felt very strong, but having that kind of physical freedom to do to go wherever I want, I think that also really helped me uh, put myself out there more. And in college we had this really amazing fellowship called Bold Women's Leadership Network, which was a scholarship plus a mentorship kind of program, which basically had a cohort of 10 women in, I think, third year onwards, and we would have weekly meetings, and we worked on a project for our campus. So that really helped us. We would talk about any kinds of gender related issues we'd face, or we would talk about how we felt about our identities. And I think that was an amazing uh,
Great. So if we were
support.
to
Yeah.
get to know three words that define your strengths, what would they be? Like a rapid fire now. Uh,
Oh.
Pick three adjectives which you think represent your strengths.
Yeah. I think okay, I'm curious, I'm driven, and uh, I am I'm hardworking.
Great. And if you were to reflect on some moments where you made a mistake, or were sort of down and out because of a failure,
Mhm.
or something embarrassing during school, college, or now in grad school, what would
Yeah.
you reflect on? What did you learn?
Um, let's see. I think this is, yeah, I think So in college, my first year, I had a lot of trouble getting up for class on time, and I basically missed most of my lectures. So I think, and a funny story is that for one of my econ classes, I showed up with 5 minutes left in the lecture, and I just ran into class and sat down. And, and the professor he just laughed it off. He was like, "Oh, I'm glad you think my class is that important." But I think the bigger lesson there is, I think the first year can be really hard to adjust, especially coming in from like an Indian education system where everything is very structured, regimented. Even like getting up for class on time and having all that freedom can be very hard to handle. So the bigger lesson is take your classes seriously when you start out and show up. Showing up is very important.
Great. Now tell us a little bit about Stanford and what is it like? How is it very different from Middlebury? And of course, it's a grad school program, so obviously it is different in terms of academic input. But in terms of culture, life, and your settling in there, how has it been different?
I think obviously the big versus small university difference is very stark. Um, I mean, the department I'm in, the stats department, is fairly small. So we have, I think, 30 to 40 other stats master's students in my year in my program. So it does feel kind of small in that sense. But the first time I was in a big class, it was 250 students in one room, and I was just in shock. So I think coming from Middlebury, where we would be like 10 people just sitting around a table and discussing something, to this kind of a setting was a bit hard to get used to. Um, I think obviously everything here is a little bit more of a struggle in terms of getting the getting to interact with the professor or seeking help. But I do feel prepared for it because I had that kind of a sheltered college experience that I feel more confident now about handling these kinds of situations. And in terms of gender balance, actually, there's quite a bit of a difference. In my math classes at Middlebury, it was pretty equally distributed in terms of gender, but here the gender ratio is pretty skewed. A lot more guys than girls in my classes.
And do you see outcomes where people are more focused on tech industries as jobs or even research positions? Is that
Yeah,
already there? Like
yeah,
the Bay Area?
undoubtedly.
Mhm.
Yeah. That's the first thing that struck me about this place. Yeah, I think tech is huge. Everyone's doing machine learning, even if you're kind of just at the fringe of being interested in machine learning. Everyone here has taken a CS class. So it's very tech focused.
For me, it's like machines can do the learning. I'm going to focus on reading. So, well, great. I think, so yes, so what's next then? What do you think the skills that you're picking up at Stanford, where do you think you'll head? Is it academia, or do you think there's some industry sort of application towards what you're learning and that's what you're heading towards?
I think for now I do want to work for a few years, but I am definitely interested still in doing a PhD at some point. So I am working towards both. For the summer, I'm gonna intern as a data scientist. I feel like that's a really great fit for me, given my background in econ and math, and now that I have all these computational skills. So I'm excited to see where this goes.
Can you explain what a data scientist does for people who are listening? These could be high school kids or even parents,
Yeah.
and they might be keen to know what that entails.
Yeah, I think so. If this happened to me while I was searching for jobs, the word data scientist can mean so much, so many different things. So I'll maybe classify it into two broad things. One is like a stats data scientist, someone who basically, given some data, will try to make some real world recommendations, say about a business or about making decisions. And then there's the AI machine learning data scientist who will try to do engineering, who will try to solve engineering problems, like looking at an image and helping drive a car or something like this. So very broadly, a data scientist is someone who takes data and derives insights from it. But it can take very different forms.
And data could be of all types, even audio,
Yeah.
videos, anything, pretty much.
Yeah, exactly. Like
Analytics.
you could be, yeah, you could be making music recommendations for people as a data scientist.
Super. So I'm sure there's this whole world of opportunities waiting for you. But have you zeroed in on either of the paths? Which side you would want to go for?
In terms of for data science,
Yes.
yeah, I think I'm definitely more inclined towards the stats data science because I do enjoy the kind of applications of this field where it's very fulfilling to be able to answer a problem with the data you're given and actually help people make decisions. So I really enjoy that kind of work.
Fantastic. So I'm going to move towards closing questions. And this is more to do with college applications and advice you could give high school students, particularly at this time when there's so much confusion. Even the kids who graduated from high school might have to sit out one semester, or we don't know how long
Mhm.
actually. Uh, but if you reflect back on the entire application process, what is it that you would do differently if you were to start again as a high schooler?
I think um, a lot. I would probably try to enjoy the experience, and instead of doing things for the application, I would try to really engage with the things that that I was doing in order to apply for college. And I think yeah, like because you are going to be spending that much time working on these things, so it really helps to love the things that you're doing. So even if it might seem like if it's just a hobby, like painting or something like that, like just don't discard the things that you think may not look good on paper.
Super. So yeah, follow your passion. Don't just look at the application. What about different
Mhm.
parts of the application? Do you think you would have done even the college essay differently, or did your college research in a different way? How did
Yeah,
how
for
would you?
sure. I think my application is a little bit last moment. So I mean, you guys helped me so much. I really don't think I would have gotten into Middlebury if it wasn't for you all. But I would say starting early is really helpful, and for essays especially, probably just starting at least a few months in advance and really thinking about it. I think the way I approached it was a little bit like, okay, I have to write this essay. Let me just see what I can do. But it will be a really nice introspective experience for a high schooler to answer those questions, I think. But yeah,
Absolutely.
nothing wrong with being very strategic about it. But it is nice to have a balance there.
Yeah, so keep being authentic, but also knowing
Yeah,
what are the two, three things you stand for, and representing
yeah.
those with passion in your application would be obviously a good thing. Uh, Now about the situation that we are in COVID times, there's a lot of stress and disappointment for even the college graduating class of 2020, or even the high school graduating class, and confusion. Uh, how do you deal with uncertainty? Can you reflect on your past experiences and say, okay, hey, this could be it. Like, this is how you can get help, or this is how you can cope
Mhm.
with things which are beyond your control.
Yeah, I think um, obviously, it's always it causes a lot of anxiety when you make plans and they don't pan out. But it helps me to kind of feel like I am a little bit in control of where my life is going. So I usually, when I plan for something, I will have two or three other things that I would also be happy doing if it doesn't work out. So so that because even if you may not, even if your first choice may not work out, there will be other things that will make you happy. So it's always good to have that in the back of your mind. And um, when I look back at my journey, there was I've had a pretty wandering path through uh, figuring out what I want to do, and no one really has a linear path towards doing what they love. So it's anyways there is going to be some sort of randomness in your path. it can either be self-induced or externally induced.
Well said.
Um,
Yeah. If you were to now think about a situation where the world goes back to what it was like pre-COVID, uh, what are the 2 or 3 things you would definitely want to do for fun, for your emotional well-being,
oh
or
my.
even yeah, so something for even
uh,
getting fitter or whatever. So yeah, mind, body, and soul. What would you do to feed and grow?
yeah, I think I had a very bad habit of canceling plans at the last moment. I think I'm never going to do that again. If a friend invites me to something, I am going to go
That's great.
because now I see its value. But yeah, it's actually nice that to be able to get some fresh air right now. But I would go out a lot more and just enjoy the weather outside or sit under a tree or something.
Fantastic. So thank you so much, Risha, for a kind of very genuine conversation, the honesty and the growth, the journey that you've had so far. Look forward to following your success. We are also organizing several panels and uh, small group sessions. These are intimate. Calling them webinars sounds a little odd because these are really small, 20-25 students attending, and then 2 or 3 people sort of having that conversation with them. Love to invite you for different panels. And so I'll send you invites soon. Looking forward to staying in touch. Bye.
Bye bye.